Hey guys, BuildZoid here, and today we're going to be doing some memory overclocking on some cheap Samsung, well, yeah, relatively cheap OEM Samsung D-die memory sticks that I picked up on eBay. So here's what they look like. A2 PCB layout, so we've got the memory chips, sort of in two groups at the far ends of the sticks. This is a Samsung sort of cost-optimized variant of the PCB. As there are no SMD components on the back, which means they only have to run it through, the SMT line once instead of twice, because you don't have any component, like, you can't, have components getting attached at the to both sides of the PCB at the same time. So this is like a really cost-optimized PCB we're looking at here, but it does use the A2 layout. Should clock pretty high. Here is the part number. And actually what's cool about these OEM sticks is for Samsung, you can tell what die they come with just from the part number. So this part number ends in DB2, and that actually tells us that this is 8 gigabit D die. Also, it says on the stick right there that this is 1 rank X8, which is pretty standard desktop memory. So it's single rank X8 memory chips. And yeah, I've got two of these sticks for dual channel, and we're on a Z590 Aorus Master. We're going to be just running some 3D Mark's TimeSpy CPU test on this for the actual performance tracking. Right now it's at stock, so I believe that's 2666. Yep, 2666, 19, 19, 19, all JEDEC timings. And this is with a 5.1 gigahertz 11900K. And yeah, I honestly don't know what to expect from this. Samsung D-Die is, funnily enough, the first memory chip I ever got to 5,000 megabits per second. But I've not really ever tried to push it for benchmarks, because I only ever had one, for a very long time I only had one stick of this stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what it does when you actually try to optimize it. This is admittedly a bit of an imbalanced system with the, 11900, the 11900K is really excessive for these memory sticks, but if you're using a cheaper 11th gen CPU, I don't think you would see too much of a difference from what we have here. So I'm just going to write down our stock score, which is 12,000 points, 12,001, and yeah, we're just going to go into the BIOS, and from here, see how far we can push this. I think we're going to go in gear 2, because this stuff is probably going to be extremely loose. And since it's going to be very loose, I think we want to compensate for the terrible timings with just more frequency. So it sure is taking its time to restart. Okay, back in the BIOS, and the first thing we're actually going to do is I'm going to set the reset switch to be safe boot. Yeah, that is going to really simplify the initial overclocking, and I kind of screwed that up. Give me a second there. So, anyway, yeah, there's no memory, there's no XMP option in the BIOS, because this memory kit does not come with XMP, of course. I have AVX512 disabled, there's no AVX offset, and we're using high LLC on the V-core, so yeah, anyway. This stuff should scale reasonably well with voltage, so we're just going to go straight to 1.4 volts. Which is sort of a, I consider that a nice safe voltage to use for memory chips where you're not sure. So that's why we're going to go with 1.4. For advanced memory settings, initially I just want to loosen this stuff out a lot. So we're probably going to go with I don't know, 22, 30, well, let's try 28, and 56. The TRAS here doesn't really matter that much. In fact, we could just leave it on auto. Yeah, I'll just leave that on auto. Since we are going to be going into gear 2, I'm going to get command rate to 1T. And going to go gear 2, and we're going to go straight to 4,000. Probably, actually, no, we're not going to go straight to 4,000. That's a terrible idea, but going to go to 3,200 initially, and yeah, I don't see anything else to change right now. We're just gonna hit that. Like, worst case scenario, I have the safe boot button, right? Like, I actually could have just jumped straight to 4000. I've not worked with this stuff at all, so this is sort of like overclocking memory from zero. Or, well, not at all. Like, the last time I worked with Samsung D-Die was Z390. I have completely forgotten how this stuff should behave. Oh, I missed the BIOS. That's what I get for not spamming the delete key like a maniac. That's great. So right now we should just be losing performance, if anything. Because we're in Gear 2, and the capture card's being extremely cooperative as well, so yeah. Right, like, testing it right now is not worth it. There. No, I wanted to restart. There we go. There we go, in the BIOS, and now we're just going to jump straight to 3600. I'm just going to mash the delete key the whole time. I'm not going to risk it again. I don't feel like going into Windows. Until we're at some settings that I feel like are worthy of actually running. Hey, that works. Well, I do remember one thing. This stuff tolerates a lot more voltage than Samsung C-Die does. So, yeah. that is one thing. Like, if you had Samsung C-Die based sticks, you wouldn't actually want to shove 1.4 volts into them. That would be a terrible idea. But, this isn't C-Die, so we don't have to worry about that part. Yeah, so that's nice and easy. I think up until like 4600, this should be relatively easy. I'm gonna try 4400 next. We're just going in, you know, increments of 400 megabits per second at a time. Like, honestly, not a bad overclock for like OEM 2666 sticks. Being able to do 4400. There's certainly memory sticks out there that, like, you try to do something like this with them and they'll get stuck at like 3466 or something. Or lower. Yeah, still booting. I mean, it is very loose right now, but... Yeah, so 4600, and I think with 4600 I'll actually try... Like, if this trains and boots were going into Windows, I'm not going to keep mashing delete now. Yep, it works. And the capture card's being stupid. The funny thing about the TimeSpy CPU test is it actually gets heavy, like, as if the performance goes up from the memory overclock, the test actually gets heavier on the CPU. So I'm not 100% certain that the 5.1 gigahertz overclock is going to be completely stable, but we'll see. Worst case scenario, I just have to give it more voltage. The thing is, I am on an air cooler, so that's kind of my main concern here. I'm gonna go CPU test. See what happens. Oh yeah, that's quite a bit faster. Yeah, that really is, that is quite an improvement right there. That's 500 points. And all I did, honestly, like, we're not nowhere near, like, maxed out, I don't think. So, that's really cool. I don't know. Maybe we could just keep pushing the frequency, though. I kind of think... where's ASRock timing configurator? Why are you over there? Come here. Though I think right now what I'd prefer to do is actually manually set the timings, is what I'm thinking of doing. And yeah, TRAS is terrible, but that's fine. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that, because, like, let's try 4800. Let's try 4800, right? Because the whole, like, the thing is, if you're in Gear 2, your number one priority is to just get it as clocked as high as possible first. Worry about the timing second. I guess I could also do a separate attempt with Gear 1 on these, but... You know, 4800 might work. 4800 might actually work on this stuff. I kind of feel like it probably needs more voltage, but I'm not sure if that's gonna... Because the official requirement from JDEC for DDR4 is that 1.5 volts doesn't cause immediate damage. There's no requirement for 1.5 volts to, like, have good longevity. And so I don't really feel confident, you know, pushing the voltage any higher than this on a rather untested memory chip. Like, I know for a fact that there's XMP kits out there with 1.35 volts based on this memory chip, but I don't know, like, at 1.5 volts if it would be safe. So we're not going to do that. So we're going to stick to the 1.4 volts, and evidently it doesn't need a ton of voltage for 4800, so that's cool. It's really, really cool. Feel like very Micron-esque. Actually, not even. Not even. Because, yeah, like, this is really kind of... Like, this is surprisingly low voltage, I think, for this kind of frequency. So fun stuff. Oh, the board overrode. Okay. So actually, it just didn't go to 4800 at all. So I guess we'll stick to 4600. I don't really feel like fighting it too hard, right? Like, my idea behind this video was, like, I want to show, like, a casual memory overclocking instead of super try-hard mode where, where you spend, like, hours fighting for, like, 200 megabits per second. Wait, no, it did work. This is 4800 in the BIOS. I guess maybe ASRock timing configurator just bugged out because system info. The thing is, like, if you run two utilities that scan a bunch of system details at the same time, they can bug out. So I guess ASRock timing configurator bugged out because I was running 3D Mark at the same time. Like, I should have opened one, waited for it to fully open, then opened the next, then opened the other, but yeah. Well. So it does do 4800. That's cool. That's really cool. So we might be able to get, like, if some of the subtimings tighten up properly, we should be able to get quite a bit of performance out of this. So this time I'm not going to open everything at the same time. Oh, come on, capture card. Yep, still waiting on that capture card. Oh, and the mouse is bugged out for some reason. Go. No, don't restart, you idiot. So 22, yeah, so 4800, gear 2, command rate 1. Well, not actually command rate 1, but... like, technically command rate 2, but if you were in actual command rate 2 on... Ah, okay, so it's not stable, though. Okay, so we're going to go back down to 4600, then. this right here probably needs... Well, maybe it just needs looser... We're going to try loosen out the TCL. And actually, I'm going to try lower the TRCD and loosen the TCL, because what my memory, like, again, like, it's not, so I don't remember much about running this memory chip, but what I do remember is that it had, like, awful cast latency requirements. Like, it needed horrendous cast latency. And so we're going to try that. We're going to give it horrendous cast latency, and we're going to try lower TRCD, which, honestly, if it can do TRCD 26, that would be pretty that would be pretty solid. Honestly, if it did, like, TRCD 20 with a cast latency of 26, I would rather have that than 20 TCL with a TRCD of 26. Like, TCL is far less important than the TRCD timing is. But this is just straight up not training, and so now we're just going to hit the safe boot button, which is here. So evidently lower TRCD does not work. So yeah, I think I'll back it off to 46 and 4600 and... Well... I don't know. Let's try 29. Also, I guess I could set this to something somewhat reasonable for once. On its own, it was going to 74, which is almost certainly completely unnecessary. And there's a chance that it doesn't like odd cast latency. So we might have to go all the way up to 24 TCL. Actually, no, that doesn't really make sense. There's like cast latency 19 kits out there that work just fine at 4800. Yeah, no, this does not work. Okay, we'll go back down to 4600. I really don't feel like fighting it that hard. Like, it's a budget memory kit, you know. Trying to push it to its very limits is just kind of like, eh. Also, it won't make like, 200 megabits per second isn't going to make a huge difference. Like, it's just not worth the effort, in my opinion, if you have this kind of situation. So we're going to drop down to 4600. We're going to go 22. I want low TRCD, though. Like, I'll take loose casts all day, every day, but I like, if I could have decent TRCD, I'd really like that. Maybe I did set the TRAS too low. Like, again, I really don't remember much about overclocking this memory, so for me, this is kind of like... This is about as close to starting from zero knowledge as it gets for me with DDR4. Well, I guess there's some like really obscure ICs that I could have tried finding instead, but... Okay, so 26... Oh, no. I wanted to keep tightening it up, but oh well, we'll take this. Thing is, I guess we could run a quick benchmark to see how 26 compares to 28 on the TRCD, but I don't expect too much of a difference. Like, we're still talking about, like, a 10% reduction in TRCD when, like, yeah, which, like, that's one timing. And it is probably one of the most important timings there is, but it is just one of them. And 10% is not much of a reduction, so, yeah, I don't expect to see some huge performance uplift from that, but... It's at least a decent indicator of if it's stable, and since we're already in the OS, we may as well, right? Yeah, I don't think this is even going to get past, like, random variants. Or maybe... There was some frame drops that that are making me think that we're, like, on the edge of stability at this point. So that was 12.518, which just, yeah, not a difference. I want to try 24. Which I don't think is going to work. Like, I straight up think it's not even going to post, but we have safe boot, so, you know, that's like, That's why I love Safe Boot so much, is like you want to try something stupid with your memory, go ahead. Like, you're just going to hit the Safe Boot button and you're going to be back where you started. So arguably it might be, maybe, well, let's try 24. And if this trains, I'll be impressed. And train, it doesn't. No, it, what? Wait, what? It does? No way. Holy crap, it boots. Oh, no. No, it doesn't. Okay, this is super borderline. Yep, that's super borderline. So, oh, come on. It crashed so hard the reset button doesn't work right now. Okay, we're going to try use the safe boot button. So evidently, like, I think I'll leave the TRCD at 26. Oh, I guess it's worth trying TCL 21, maybe 20. I guess 25 could also be an option, but like the thing is, one tick of any one timing just doesn't really make that much of a difference. So let's try 20. Actually, you know what? No, before we try that, what I want to see is something really dumb. Does that work? Because with some ICs, you can just drop the TRAS on the floor, and it's fine. So... And especially, like, it's especially common with, like, Hynix and Samsung memory chips where you can just have the TRAS as low as the memory controller supports. Like this. Yeah. Now, I don't know that it's going to have a... Well, we're going to want to check that this actually makes a difference in terms of performance, because I have a sneaking suspicion that on some memory sticks it doesn't actually do anything, which is why you can set it so low, but... And we're going to want to check with ASRock timing configurator that everything started up correctly. Yeah, 20, yeah, 22, 26, 28. So yeah, that seems to have worked. And we're going to start seeing like the real uplifts once I get to the subtimings. I don't know that like spending a bunch of time on the primaries is worth it here. Actually, it almost certainly isn't. I don't think the cast latency is going to do 18 or anything. Looks a bit faster. Oh no, that actually dropped. So TRAS too low. Gonna try 40. Actually, just 40. At the same time, like, unfortunately, the TimeSpy CPU test is a little bit inconsistent, so that 100-ish point drop could have actually just been random variance, but I was going to try 44. See if that brings it back up. If it does, then I'm just going to leave it. I don't really feel like spending a bunch of time testing, you know, like all the different values between 44 and 28 that are available. Come on, there we go. This looks about the same. Oh wait, there wasn't that weird frame drop. Like, it didn't go below 40 in this run, though. It also, it ended over a 43. So, 12,556, yeah, so I'll take that. I'm pretty happy. Like, I wouldn't say this is actually, like, a big difference from when I had the TRAS set to 60. Because this is, like, 50 points as well within variance, right? Previously, when we were at 22, 26, 60, it would be getting, like, 12,518. So getting 12,556 is like, that's very much margin of error. But now we're going to move on to the subtimings, where the main thing I want to check first is if we can drop the TRRDs on as low as they go. Because for time spy, that's actually a really, really big one. And I love the safe boot button. It's just like, I can think of any weird timing thing I want to do, and it's just like, just do it. Safe boot, it's always there to save you, so yeah, we're just going to go straight to 4.6. With a TFAW of 16, of course. See what happens. And that just boots right up. They didn't even need to retrain. Did I forget to press, like, save and exit, or... I guess maybe for the subtimings it doesn't need a retrain. That's cool. Oh, and the capture card decided to not derp out for once. So... Oh, it didn't retrain. Did I not hit save and exit? Like, what? If we get into the BIOS and the settings are there, then it just means I need to change something else. Oh, I guess I could have killed fast boot. Yeah, that was probably a good idea. Yeah, so if we go to advanced memory settings, where is it? Memory boot mode, disable fast boot, yeah. Because, yeah, I did set it, it just didn't retrain. So, that's something to keep in mind if you're working on Gigabyte motherboards, I guess. Actually, probably on all motherboards. Like, if you're doing memory overclocking, you should probably disable your fast boot. Because basically all it does is it skips the memory training. And so if you change timings or something, it'll actually just not change them. Because the memory controller won't go through the procedure of actually applying the new memory settings. It'll just use the old settings. Which can be kind of like, you can actually use fast boot to sort of boot settings that shouldn't work sometimes. And for some reason, the capture card has decided to just work now. So that's cool. Yeah, so 4.6, yeah, this should be really, like, this is probably going to make the biggest performance difference to time spy of any adjustment I'm going to make for the rest of this video. So, yeah. Because this is very, very, like, it's pretty bandwidth intensive, this test is. And those two timings really affect your just sustained memory bandwidth. Yeah, so that's just a huge uplift right there. Like, it was hitting over 111 FPS right at the start, and now it's at like 45, where previously we'd be hovering around the 40 mark, so huge performance boost from just 3 timings. Yeah, 13,549. So that's great. So that's a lot of improvement. You know, we're up like 1,500 points on this kit already. I'm pretty sure we can probably hit 14,000 points at this point, maybe more. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have IDA installed because this is an OS that I'm trying to keep relatively clean. And I also don't think I have Geekbench installed either. But the thing is, Geekbench actually like primarily cares about, well, frequency, and that's about it. So yeah, so I really like TimeSpy CPU test is like if you don't want to run LinPack, which is why we're not running LinPack because I'm on an air cooler on the CPU right now and it's really hot. And yeah, so I want to use the TimeSpy CPU test because that's just like that is a rather memory intensive CPU benchmark, but it doesn't set the CPU on fire like LinPack does. So TWR should go to should be able to do 12. TRFC. Let's not touch TRFC just yet. Let's try RTP to 8. CAS. This should do 4.7. WTRs. So we're not going to touch the WTRs because those are adjusted through the tertiaries. Actually, we can set the TXP to 4. TREFI. I'm just going to leave the TREFI on auto for now. TCKE, I think, goes, yeah, it doesn't go below 4, so we're just going to set that to 4 and call it a day. And we're going to go 7, 4, 4, 4. And then we're at 4600, so it defaults to 16. JDEC is 12. I think we could probably run 13s, right? So it's worth noting that for a single rank memory configuration like we're running here, only the SG and DG timings apply. And these ones, honestly, I could leave those on auto, but like I just find it more visually pleasing if they're all set like this. So this is why I set the timings this way. This is not like if we were in dual rank, this would not work. This would very much not work. But since we're not in dual rank, I'm setting the timings to be visually pleasing rather than actually correct. So, yeah, there. I have lots of bad habits. We're gonna try first the JDEC defaults, right, of 36 and 30, and then we might be able to push those down to like, I don't know, 32 and 24 or something like that, which would be pretty good. And then these last two, actually, I'm just gonna set these to 4. So yeah, we're not going to touch any of the timings at the very bottom there. And this should actually also give us a pretty, like if this boots, this should give us a pretty big performance uplift. And this is this type of thing where you just set a bunch of timings going like, oh yeah, this is going to work. This is why you want safe boot. Because with safe boot, you can go through and undo all of your mistakes without having to keep constantly saving BIOS profiles. But this boots right up, almost like I know what I'm doing sometimes. And I'm serious, I've not worked with this memory since Z390, and when I was running it on Z390, the only thing I was doing was going for max frequency. Because I realized, like, it was really, like, this stuff's really light on the memory controller, so it doesn't need, like, a ton of system agent voltage, it doesn't need a ton of VCCIO voltage if you're on a 9th gen or 10th gen CPU. You know, if you're on Ryzen, Ryzen doesn't really work like that, like Intel chips do, where like you don't raise SoC voltage to run steadily higher memory clocks. Also, the capture card is being incredibly cooperative today. The main thing I'm worried about is the capture card has occasionally caused OBS to outright crash every time I do. Like right now, what I'm doing to get the capture card to sort of fix itself, that can sometimes crash OBS. I'm very concerned that might happen to at some point, which would really screw me over after doing, you know, like all this. Because I want this to be a first impressions overclocking type thing, not the sort of like, well, this is B-die, so I just punch in generic B-die timings, and it's like, oh, look at that, it's so fast now, because generic B-die timings. So... yeah, anyway, let's run that CPU test again. Like, honestly, I think at this point I'd be pretty like, if you have a Samsung D-die kit, like, this is just kind of like, this is what I'd run on it. I'd be pretty happy with these settings already. Like, honestly, if this was daily, I might give up at this point. like, you know, yeah, I'm leaving the TRFC on auto, so that really didn't make much of a difference at all. So we're still getting about 13,000 points, which is pretty disappointing. Actually, it went, like, performance actually got worse, so that's a bit concerning, isn't it? 13,438. I'm just going to rerun it just in case. Actually, the control panel came up, and I did leave ASRock timing configurator open, so run that again. Unfortunately, there's not really... Well, no, one of the best memory benchmarks for, like, memory latency would be SuperPi 32 million, but that takes so long to run. So that's why we're not using it. Like, honestly, that would be... If I was doing this off video, I would probably be running that instead of this. So that's actually consistently slower. Interesting. I wonder if it's a stability thing. Unfortunately, this is like a bench OS I have, and so I don't have any stability tests on here, so we're not, I'm not crapping up this OS just for the sake of one video. I should have probably made a new OS with all the stability tests and stuff on it, but yeah, we're not doing that. So... Yeah, ultimately, like, the main difference here is that after making adjustments, instead of just running a benchmark, you would also run a stability test, and if the stability test doesn't pass, you've got, like, well, I guess with a new memory chip, it's going to be kind of hard to tell what exactly is the issue. But, like, I wouldn't be too concerned, like, well, my experience with, say, most of the tertiary timings is that they either work or they don't. And that's about it. And if you have some random erratic errors, I would kind of suspect, like, TRRDs. Okay, but why is it not getting faster? Because, like, we just tightened up all of the tertiaries, and, well, maybe I perhaps set TWR too low. I'm gonna try that. Because I don't think, like, I think the tertiaries should just be a straight improvement. Right now. So I'm really not sure why the performance would have gone down. Maybe I should have been paying more attention to the ASRock timing configurator window every time I pull it up. And the capture card has decided that it doesn't want to capture Windows again. Please don't crash my OBS, thank you. Well, that's a new one. It's never done that before. Okay. The funny thing is, when I use AMD motherboards, the capture card works fine. That's an actual... Like, you'd think it would be tied to the GPU, but if I use this GT 1030 in an AMD motherboard, it would probably... Like, it wouldn't be perfect, but it would be a hell of a lot more reliable than it is right now. But since we're on an Intel motherboard, it just, like, I have no idea why. Because it's not like the motherboard shouldn't affect the display drive circuitry of the GPU, like, at all. Okay, I think that actually made no difference. Which would be good, because, like, I don't think I made a mistake. If this made no difference, I don't think, like, that would be in line with expectations. Actually, it got worse. Why is it slowing down? What on earth is going on? These are, yeah, these haven't changed. This is 6, 4, 10, 4. Okay, there's 2 tertiaries that I'm suspicious of. I guess I could also try 12, 12, 12. Also, what I haven't done, and I should have probably done earlier, is set the VCCIO2 voltage and the VCC SA. Since the thing is, like, the board doesn't even track VCCIO2, but VCCSA, yeah, that's unnecessary. Like, actually, that's too high. I wouldn't daily that. So, VCCIO2, 1.45, system agent, 1.4. And that should be, like, that is as high as I would be willing to run those two voltages for long-term use. And now let's go figure out why the hell TimeSpy is slowing down. So actually, that one I'm not sure about, so we'll put that one back to auto. Maybe this one as well. And then there's these two, which I believe originally were 41 and 35. And so that still boots right up, so the board evidently was just pushing a bit too much voltage. Well, it boots right up. Yeah, it boots right up. Like at 4600, you really shouldn't need that much system agent or IO2 voltage. And the capture card's not working again. One day I'll have a capture card that doesn't randomly drop every time the resolution changes. Because that's basically the issue we're running here, as like the GPU changes resolutions. The capture card just, I don't know why it stops recognizing it. Yeah, so hopefully this fixes the performance, because I have no idea what, because like the tertiaries I punched in are basically what I would use for like competitive benchmarking. So I'm really not sure why they would cause this to slow down unless they're causing like major instability. Which is an option. Though I'd expect TimeSpy to crash if that was the case. It keeps slowing down. What the hell? It just keeps getting slower and slower. Okay, we're gonna go back to auto. Like, I want to do a sanity check at this point, because it doesn't really make sense that... Well, no. Like, no, it doesn't make sense that I had a score of 13,550 points almost. And since then, I've just been going down. Right? As I've been, like, making the timings tighter. So... yeah. Because... yeah, like, that just doesn't make any freaking sense. So, auto, 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 auto. This is all auto. And I'm just going to set everything right back to auto. And then we're going to use ASRock timing configurator to figure out, like, what it's doing. You know what would be really funny if the performance drops again? That would be like peak 11th gen right there. Just like boot the same setting twice, get drastically different performance results. Like there's a whole nother issue of like with 11th gen where if you boot the same settings twice, you get drastically different stability if you're really pushing the memory frequency high. Which is basically why I haven't had like a single like a super high frequency overclock video with the 11900K that was like actually showing stable settings, because every time I've tried really high frequencies, it would just like randomly be stable or unstable. It might also be because I reduced the voltages, but that would be really annoying. Like that, like some internal... Because the thing is, you don't actually get access to every single memory timing in the BIOS. And like even ASRock timing configurator can't show absolutely everything. So there's a chance that like lowering the system agent and the IO2 voltage has like upset some internal configuration of the memory controller, and it's just slowed down now, which would be really not great. I should have done this on a 10th gen. Those don't have weird whack memory controllers. Unfortunately, this stuff isn't really worth running on Ryzen. Well, I guess on Ryzen it would be kind of like CJR in terms of performance. I don't think the performance has recovered. Yeah, this looks basically the same to me. Actually, I think it might have gotten worse. Okay, no, it's the same. So I'm not going crazy. It's just really inconsistent. Yeah, and that's 16, 16, 16, 41, 35. So I had them correct. 7.4. Like, it even sets them to 7.4 on its own. And we don't have a CCD readout, which is a bit slightly annoying. Well, let's see how low I can get the TRFC. Because that's a big one for performance as well. Now, if we were running something like... And this is where SuperPi does have an advantage if you have a properly set up OS. SuperPi is way more consistent than TimeSpy is, but... it takes so long. It's like basically all of the best memory tools take forever. There's no such thing as a good short memory benchmark. Well, no, I'd say Linpack I'd say is pretty good. The only issue is like cooling it. Like if we were trying to run Linpack, I'd like on the air cooler, I'd have to be at like 4.8 or 4.7 gigahertz because it's just so damn freaking hot. So yeah, that's why I wanted to use TimeSpy, because like, I don't want to underclock the CPU for the sake of running the stress test. But okay, so memory whack. I still want the RTP down to 8, TWR down to 12. I wonder if we can do low TCWL, maybe like 18. Actually, I leave these at like 16s, right? Should we maybe able to get TCWL pretty low? Let's try that. Okay, I think it's upset about that. Oh, wait, no. No. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. And the safe boot button has decided to not work again, so that's a bit inconvenient. Luckily, we can just power down and then hit it anyway. I was kind of hoping to make this video an hour long, and we're 50 minutes into this, and that plan seems to not going according to plan is what's going on right now. So, yeah, low cast write latency is not going to happen. And put that back to 20. I wonder if we can run a TRC of like 60 or something. That is pretty damn low. Okay, that boots. I guess I could have used well, Y-Cruncher is basically like LinPack. So that runs into the exact same problem of like, well, yeah, it's a great memory benchmark, it just sets your CPU on fire. So TRC is actually not a timing that is shown in ASRock timing configurator, and I'm not sure if that's like because Intel doesn't have a register for it, or like, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the TRC timing, because it's available on Gigabyte motherboards. It's not available on any other motherboards for Intel. That actually ran really fast. Yeah, that's the highest score yet, so I'm going to say that worked. At the same time, we do seem to have kind of a bit of you know, back-to-back score variance issue. So that's kind of annoying, but... Now we'll work on the TRFC. And actually, I think... I do want to tweak the tertiaries, though. Like, I don't just want to leave them alone. I'm not too happy with them being the way they are right now. Seven, 4... And this time, I'll only change the ones that are actually necessary, instead of changing all of them. Man, I don't think 12 is going to work. We'll try it. 4, and then like 3228. If it doesn't boot, we always have safe boot, so... Yeah, okay, I think that's not going to work. Yeah, it's not working. Oh, there we go, safe boot kicked in, I think. I'm not entirely sure, I pressed the button, but... wasn't really responding. Okay, there we go. This time it's definitely going to safe boot. Right? No. I think powering down and then using safe boot probably is the best option, based on how, like, inconsistent it is. It's a bit unfortunate. Well, I'm pretty sure it just safe booted. So I was right, the 12s don't work. I'm 99% sure that was the 12s. Yeah, it's almost certainly what these 13. You know, maybe I set them too low the first time. Maybe I need to leave them at like 14 or something to work. We'll try 14 actually. And it looks like the other two were also maybe too low. $37. Come on. Yeah, and actually, okay, so that posts. And I think I'll bump them up to 14. Because, like, we tried them at 13 once before, and that's when I had a bunch of, like, weird performance issues, so I'm gonna try 14. And this video is definitely not going to be under an hour. Then again, if you expect memory overclocking to go quickly, then you're not like you're not going to be very happy when you're faced with reality of memory overclocking. So yeah, and I'm not even stress testing here. So this is, like I'm actually cutting out the by far the most frustrating part where you just spend hours upon hours upon hours just like trying to get your memory stress test of choice to actually finish. I think at this point, if I want to see 14,000 points, I have to do TRFC. I think it's slowed down again. Yeah, there's like a weird frame drops. Yeah, it slowed down. Not much, though. So I think I'll actually... Yeah, I think I'll take that. Like, I think that's within variance. So now we'll work on TRFC. I guess I could have had, like, a whole battery of different benchmarks to use, but... I really don't like using IDA, because it just, like... Well, the only measurement that's kind of useful from IDA is the latency test. Everything else is borderline useless. Well... Yeah, no. Borderline useless. Same goes for Geekbench. And Geekbench doesn't even have a dedicated latency score. And even then, I don't care that much about the IDA latency figures, because it's basically measuring latency with low memory load, rather than, like, how much latency you have if the memory's actually getting completely hammered. This is evidently upset about something. So we're going to safe boot again, because, yeah, I think a couple of the tertiary... I think some of the tertiaries are too tight at this point. So that might be also part of why, like, the performance isn't doing so great. The funny thing is, if you run some benchmarks with really like the just ideally unstable memory, you can actually glitch them out to produce higher scores. So it's like, as your stability gets worse, a lot of the time you start losing performance, but sometimes it glitches out the benchmark in a way that it gives you more, that the benchmark thinks it runs faster. Which, yeah, that's fun. So that's a lot of the time why you'd actually want a memory benchmark that does actual, like, result checking. So that it doesn't just, like, run with horribly unstable settings, and just kind of rolls through the errors anyway. Like, there's benchmarks that'll basically just check that the calculations that are being run are actually correct. Because you can end up with memory overclocks that... technically, like, in a lot of benchmarks, they'll produce perfectly good scores, even though they're horribly unstable. So we're going to try 3632 on that, and I am going to just start lowering the TRFC. So I think we're going to start with... Right now it's at 800. I'm going to try 655. And we're just going to test the TRFC through the BIOS. So like just as low as it'll boot. And then add on top of that for stability. Because normally there's not too much of a gap between the TRFC you can boot and the lowest TRFC you can run. So 655 works just fine, so now we're going to try 566. I guess I could have tried 555. I don't think it's going to go to 555. If it does, that would actually be kind of impressive. If it does like 455, I'll be really impressed. That's like... Okay, it doesn't do that. It won't do that. Yep, D5 at a 555. So, gonna safe boot. And back to 65. Well, I guess we could try like 622 or 611. I'm literally just going by numbers that are easy to hit on the keyboard. There's no method to this other than like, well, hitting 6 and 1 twice is easy. I'm gonna try 622. I guess I could also try cast latency 20 or like 21. But I don't think that would make too much of a difference. Well, no, like it wouldn't make too much of a difference to performance. So yeah, let's try 622. That's not the timing I was aiming for. 622. And I guess also this should be 47. Yeah, let's take that. Technically, the CCD, if you're at low frequencies, can even do 4.6, but at frequencies this high, it normally doesn't do 4.6. So I'm not even going to bother trying like 4.6. This might be still a little bit too tight on the TRFC. Because I tried the 4.7 CCD earlier in the video. Yeah, too tight. So 655 looks like it might have been like spot on, basically. There. So that's safe boot. Well, I guess I could also try like 644, but the thing is, like, the difference between like 633, 644, and 655 is not that big, right? So that's why I'm just kind of like, we're just gonna go to 655. Like, basically, to see a big performance difference, you need like 100 ticks of difference in TRFC. Less than that just doesn't really matter because it's such a big number. Right? That like if you want to shorten the refresh cycle by 10%, you need to go from like 600 to 540. So if you're going from like 600 to 590, you're wasting your time. Unless, of course, you're going for like competitive benchmarks, in which case, yeah, even 1% performance improvements can be somewhat helpful, but like for day-to-day usage, it doesn't matter. And you know what? I've been thinking, and I'm going to put a memory test on this. We're gonna run mem test directly from my USB stick. That should be fine. Oh yeah, so at this point, like, I'm pretty happy with these results, right? Like, well, these timings right now. I don't think it's really going to get any tighter. Maybe TCL will go a little bit lower. TRCD might do 25 instead of 26, but that's not going to be a huge difference. TREFI, not, like, I don't like adjusting that well. The thing is, it's way too easy. If you're just running, like, one-off benchmarks, it's really easy to just set TREFI as high as it goes, and it'll work. And the thing is, this is a timing that can cause, like, pretty serious silent memory corruption if it's too loose, or more like if you set it too high, because that's the interval between data refreshes. And so basically it sets how often your memory sticks get refreshed. And if they don't get refreshed often enough, you start losing data in the memory. And so that can cause kind of a lot of issues. And so I don't really, like with this stuff, I don't, like with BDI, it's pretty well known that you can set it to like 40,000 and you're almost certainly going to be fine. With this stuff, I have no idea. And I don't really want to find out. Well, it's also awkward to test, so like we're not going to do that right now. So it has just slowed down for some reason. Again, lovely, I think, is slowed down. Okay, no, it's about maxed, I guess. So that seems to be about maxed out. I do kind of want to see how long it would take to run SuperPi, though. I don't have a good reference for that, so what else do I have? Do I have Geekbench? I do have Geekbench. Okay, let's run Geekbench. I've complained about it being a terrible memory test, but, you know. I'm kind of wondering what this produces for Geekbench in terms of score. Because, like, Geekbench primarily only cares about, like, memory frequency, and that's reasonably high here. So, it should be, I think, actually, 5.1 gigahertz, 11900K, Geekbench. Oh, no. I think it's going to crash. Because we're on the air cooler. I have a pretty strong suspicion this is not going to make it past DFFT or SFFT. Because those are both really heavy multi-core workloads towards the end of the benchmark, and I don't think they're going to finish. Because that 5.1 gigahertz overclock is actually very optimistic for this chip, especially on the air cooler. Though if DFFT and SFFT get so hot that they just thermal throttle, it might be fine. So it looks like I got lucky. And the memory, hey, that's not too bad. You know, like if you're really pushing 10th gen chips, like 10,000 points is totally well, like good memory setups, you'd be looking at over 10,000 points. But considering what this is, like this is OEM, green PCB, like a PCB so down costed that they couldn't even be like they weren't willing to pay extra to put components on the back. So they redesigned the PCB so that they could put all of them on the front. You know, so when you've got RAM like this, where it is built to be basically as cheap as physically possible, you can't really complain about a 9200 Geekbench score. That's like, it's not bad at all for this. If this was BDI, I'd be upset. But this is like, yeah, cheap. Well, the funny thing is, I don't think it was even that cheap because I was specifically looking for these sticks, and so I think I paid like 39 quid for one of them. But I think I got one of them for 30, and I think the other one for like 39. But so it wasn't even that cheap. But considering what it is, I mean, you can't be too upset with a 9200 Geekbench score. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. And let's pull up memtest because I wonder if like how bad is this in terms of stability? Because this could be anywhere between instantly spewing a million errors a second to... actually, it probably can't be that unstable because it ran both Geekbench and TimeSpy, but where is memtest? Oh. No. We need the deluxe version, which is better. Mostly because it doesn't need to spawn a bajillion windows, and we're gonna want to test 900 megabytes? Yeah. So that'll use like 14.4 gigabytes of memory. Hey, it's not immediately spewing out errors everywhere. If this actually run, like I'm gonna leave this to run, because we're now towards the end of the video, if this passes, I'm just going to say, hey, it passed. I'll be really surprised if it does. It normally doesn't go this smoothly. You don't normally, like, you don't normally take two memory sticks that you've not worked with, well, that you've basically not worked with at all, overclock them, and then have them be stable. That's not really a thing. Not like you don't overclock them in an hour and 11 minutes and have them be stable. That's not a thing. That's not how this works. It's cheating. So if this doesn't spew out any errors, and I'm gonna just run this to the usual like 400%. If I was actually gonna be dailying this, I'd also want to run LinPack on it. You know, Y-Cruncher as well. Yeah, LinPack, Y-Cruncher. I'd actually leave this overnight. LinPack would be just for like a couple minutes, like 30 minutes of LinPack is normally what I do. Because it is really, really hot. But the thing about LinPack is it just slams the memory controller, and it gives you a really good idea of like if the memory, because even the memory controller is actually temperature sensitive. So you want something that gets the memory controller hot so that you know what like worst case scenario memory, like CPU loading is going to do to the memory controller stability. But yeah, if you're just like, I'm not going to run LinPack on this because air cooler 5.1 gigahertz, but if the sticks themselves can sustain this kind of overclock, I'd be actually kind of like, that's impressive, honestly. Like, it's a 2666 CL19 OEM, super downcosted. Okay, we got an error. But yeah, honestly, I think like with a few more timing adjustments, I'm pretty sure I can clean this up and get it to run at this kind of clock speed. That should not be too much of a problem. Actually, that might be a TR. The thing is, if you get one-off errors like this, you actually kind of want to let it run for longer. I think that might be a TRRD error. So maybe I'll have to go from like 4.6 to like 4.7 or 4.8. That would be ideal. I don't really want to go to something like 6.10, which would be awful for performance. Like, I showed how, like, going from, you know, stock to 4.6 for TimeSpipe was, like, the biggest performance improvement of anything I did. But, yeah. So, that's it. Samsung OEM D-die overclocking. You can actually get these memory chips in... Oh, boy, did it blue screen? Hey, it crashed. Oh, no, we ran out of memory. Yeah, we ran out of memory. Because I opened an image file while 570 megabytes available. Alt F4. Oh no, keyboard's down. Everything's down. I'm pretty sure it just ran out of memory. And then crashed. Because it probably wasn't too stable as well. But yeah, so that's it. Samsung OEM D-die overclocking. If you can find this stuff cheap, it's relatively like capable. Yeah, honestly, like, if you have a gigabyte motherboard, you can basically follow this, like, follow the methodology. Don't try to, you could probably copy-paste my settings. I'm just not sure that they're necessarily gonna work, right? Because of the silicon lottery, every stick is different, and this is especially true for OEM sticks, because they do no binning. Like, if it runs, it gets shipped. Like, that's the whole point of OEM sticks. It's just like any memory chip that passes JEDEC, yep, it goes out the door. So a lot of, like, these sticks can be kind of all over the place in terms of quality, though generally they're just not going to be as good as if you had memory sticks with properly binned memory chips. And yeah, so hopefully this is somewhat helpful for, like, because here's the thing, you can also just use the same memory overclocking methodology for literally any other memory chip, right? Like, if you have a memory kit, you don't know what to do with it, you don't know what memory chips it has, just sort of go through the same process. Like, there's really not any, like, it might seem like it's a really dumb brute force approach, but the thing is, there's really no other way to overclock memory. Like, when I work with memory chips where I know what kind of settings should work, it's just a case of I've worked with those memory chips a lot. It's not a case of like, oh, there's some magic equation you can do to solve, you know, if my memory kit has... Because the thing is, like, the JEDEC doesn't really... Like, the stock spec of a memory kit doesn't tell you what it's going to overclock to at all. This is a 2666 CL19 memory kit, like any other 2666 CL19 memory kit. And some of them are going to be D die, some of them are going to be C die. If this was C die, then we wouldn't be at 1.4 volts. Yeah, like that kind of thing. And also, yeah, the capture card's given up again. So yeah, that's it for the video. I think I've said that twice at this point. So thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, leave any comments, questions, suggestions down in the comment section below. If you'd like to support what I do here with actually hardcore overclocking, I have a Patreon. There's a link to that down in the description below. There's also the HOC Teespring store where you can pick up shirts, stickers, posters, you know, the usual YouTuber merch. Speaking of the Teespring store, I've just added zipper hoodies because yeah, Teespring finally has zipper hoodies, and so I'm like super excited about that because like I wear zipper hoodies. They previously had like pullovers, which I have no idea how anybody wears that. Way too restrictive in terms of But yeah, so there's now zipper hoodies on Teespring. So well, actually, there's just one because I still need to do a black design. But right now there's like a gray one. There'll be a black one pretty soon. So yeah, if you'd like to check out the Teespring store, that would be much appreciated. And yeah, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.